Hello, my name is Tina. I'm head of design of Victoria Designs. In this video, we will show you the first part of the tutorials for the Dragon Destiny Mega Project Pack. If you'd like to discover this whole Mega Project Pack in our shop, the link is below. And if you'd like to see a separate video where I show you exactly which principles are in this Mega Project Pack, there's a link for that below as well. And now let's start crafting. So let's talk about the things we need. Things we need are pieces of 1mm thick cardboard, so that's about 1/16 of an inch, a bit more perhaps, doesn't really matter. So sturdy cardboard, but not too thick. These have obviously already been cut to size, but I will show you the sizes later. So that kind of cardboard. Double-sided tape. I have them in two sizes. Of course, you can vary the sizes a little bit or use more of this if you don't have a thicker one. You can adjust it to your own wishes. So I have the 3/8 inch, that's about a centimeter wide, and I have one that is a 1/4 inch wide, that's about 5-6 millimeter. I think it's more 6, but it doesn't matter. Okay, something else that we need is some strong glue. I have this fabric tack. You really need a very strong glue here to hold the whole thing together. Not much, most have been done with other stuff like Mod Podge and a glue stick, but some pieces really need to be glued down very well. And I also have a strong glue stick, but I think with a regular glue stick you can get away with, definitely. And we will need a lot of Mod Podge. I mean, a lot. I really like to work with Mod Podge. It is non-toxic, it's a glue, it's a varnish, all in one. The only downside is that it is water-based and it can create some bubbles. But after hours, no, literally days of trial and error, a lot of error, and then it worked. I managed to get a really good way to use this for this project, that is. The next thing you need is some thread. I like to use embroidery thread, and you will also need some fabric. Now this is muslin, like the stuff that fashion designers use to make patterns or a first version of their clothes. This is just stuff that you can get anywhere. I think any cotton would do, and maybe perhaps some more synthetic fabrics as well. I just never used them. Maybe they even work better, I have no idea. And these pieces are actually, if you look at this page, is an A4 page. It's about kind of a letter page. A letter page is a bit wider and a bit shorter, but so two pieces of fabric that, and yeah, about 1 inch or 2 centimeters around, just to be sure. This is more than wide enough. You will also need some paper towels. These will not go into the journal. This is just to make things work. You will also need something heavy, a lot of heavy books to press things down. This is Lord of the Rings in Dutch, and it has helped me tremendously with my crafting for years now. So heavy books. And you will also need some eyelets. Yes, I use this tray to catch all the small stuff I need for crafting for a particular project. And I already, for the eyelets, I picked these. So I have two 3/16 brass colored eyelets. You can use 1/8 of an inch as well. I've tried it and that works as well. It's just a bit smaller. And I actually have some 1/8 of an inches here. These are smaller for other projects in this project as well. So I'm going to use these and these. If you only have one size, perfect. You'll also need some ribbon, and I already selected some seam lining here. I already shrunk it, like made it really wrinkly. And I think I have shrunken about 2 meters, and that should definitely be enough. You will also need some brads. I'm using very small ones here. I have them in 2 colors, and I already selected them for my project here. And I have 8. I think I have, most of them are bronze, like vintage bronze, and I have 2 purple ones. And I also have this thing, and I will show you later how I use it, because it's so handy to use these if you have these. You can make this yourself. And I also have a Bulldog clip. This will actually go in the journal. And then also some washi tape. You might say, hey, that's an odd design of washi tape to use in a dragon's journal. Well, this goes in places that you won't see. And so I'm just using some old washi tape. And it's actually pretty fun to put some pieces in the journal that you will never see, but are secretly like super whimsical and don't fit the other designs at all. And the next thing you need is some old newspapers just to put your work on if you're Mod Podging and whatevering and drying stuff, etc. I try to reuse these as much as possible. Another thing that's kind of important is this parchment paper. So this is the kind of stuff that you bake cookies on in your oven. So I have these 2 pieces of parchment paper just to put my things on that I'm working on, that are drying, etc. So they won't stick to whatever's below. And then we have some, I have like 2 trays of stuff, because if I don't use these trays, my stuff will be everywhere and I will be searching for, I don't know, this for 10 minutes. Come on. So one thing that's very handy is scissors. So I have 2 scissors. These are my really good paper scissors. And this one is to cut less important stuff. I'm talking a lot, so good scissors, bad scissors, that's it. For the rest, yes, a pencil is handy. Just a basic pencil, any pencil will do. And obviously an eraser, because mistake making is all part of the process. So we also need sponges to use the Mod Podge. 1 sponge is enough, really, this one's enough. We also need a hairdryer. This is obviously a very old one, but it will make the process so much quicker, and it will help with not having bubbles in our work. Very important. As you can see here, we also need an awl. So hole pricker and a mat. So the next thing you need is a scoring tool. Now I usually use a scoring board because it's so easy, so fast, and all the measuring has been done for you. You don't have to measure anything. But obviously if you don't have that, an embossing tool like this works just as fine. Just make marks from where to where you need to score. Use a ruler, use a mat underneath, and just use this. What also could be handy, it is optional, but it's very handy, is having a paper trimmer. You can have one with the sliding knife, with the roller blades. And I myself have a heavy duty guillotine trimmer. You don't have to have that. You can cut everything by hand. It's actually very therapeutical. What is also very handy, but optional, is having a bone folder. It can make crisp folds. You can also use your nails, but maybe you're going to damage it, and it could be quite, your fingers and nails could be quite sore afterwards, etc. I really like to use a bone folder. It's really inexpensive and it helps so much. What I often use, and a lot of you have been asking me for this, is this piece. And I use it to remove the backing of double-sided tape. It's not made for that. It's actually a tool for a cutting machine to remove parts of vinyl or whatever you're cutting. But it is so handy to remove the backing of double-sided tape. That's why I use it all the time. If you like a link, there will be one below in the description. Another thing we will be needing is a needle. This is quite a small one because I don't want to make my holes when I'm sewing too big, so I'm using quite a small one. You can use a bit bigger one. This one has a sharp point because that's all I have, but you can definitely use an embroidery needle that has a more dull end to save your fingers. Also completely optional, but I like to use it so much, is ink blenders and inks. So I have a few inks here. I'm not sure yet which ones I'm going to use, but yeah, some inks and ink blenders. And I want to show a few more from these, and that is the I have a corner punch here. I also have 2 circle punches, so this is 5/8 of an inch and this is 1 inch. This is actually optional, but you don't have to have it. Like if you have 1/2 inch, that's okay as well. It's just use what you have. We also need a paperclip just as a tool. It won't be used in the end result. What you also need is something to set the eyelets that I showed you before, and that is I'm going to use a crocodile. I can make holes 1/8 and 3/16 of an inch and set them. Yeah, I taped the instructions to the handle. I'm not sure if that's actually very handy yet. Okay, what you can also use is, let me put this aside, one of these. This is actually for sewing if you want to make holes in a leather belt and set some eyelets, etc. And they usually come with these little thingies that you can put in there. This is quite heavy duty as well because it's made for in leather belts, but to make the actual holes it's not that easy. You also have like these little eyelet setting tools that you can just hammer on. That works as well, but I am just so really happy with the crocodile. So something to set eyelets. The first thing we're going to make is something quite unusual, and that is we have our piece of muslin, piece of fabric, and I want this on top. This paper, I chose this one because I think I'm gonna make the small journal out of this. We're going to do this with Mod Podge. That's what you buy and need a lot. And the end result would be something that looks like one of those vinyl tablecloths. The good thing about this is, although there's a bit of work involved, you can have any design on it. I think this is so worth it because with the end result, the end material, you can do so many things. But as I explained already, I have been struggling to do this for a few days because Mod Podge is very wrinkly and I often ended up with this. Do you see the wrinkles? You don't want that unless that's the aesthetic you're going for. Good, let me show you how I do it. And this is a technique that actually works really well. But we're going to have to be fast, so I'm already going to say what I'm doing. I'm going to put this mat underneath. I know it's ugly, but that's okay, because the surface underneath is too slippery. Normally, what I'm about to show you is something I do squatted on the bathroom floor. I kid you not. The bathroom is my paper fabric dry station. My whole house is my studio. I'm currently in the living room on a dining table because my regular craft room isn't big enough. So I have something less slippery than this underneath. I'm going to put some old newspaper. Then I'm going to put the paper with the back on top, and I will completely fill this with Mod Podge. You need a decent amount of Mod Podge for this. You don't have to pour out a whole jar, but don't skimp on it as well and make sure every inch is filled. Then when this is completely filled with Mod Podge, I will put fabric on top, spread it out, and then I will remove the newspaper, take my hairdryer, turn this around, and I will constantly be rubbing while I'm drying here. So this way you will prevent from getting those ugly wrinkles. This is crucial. It doesn't take long, so 5 minutes, 1 minute on this side, 1 minute on this side, etc, etc, etc. So max 5 minutes. And when it is all touch dry, I will explain how to let it completely dry. But since I have to move quickly, I already wanted to show you what I'm about to do. So let's keep this handy. So newspaper, paper, and Mod Podge like this. And as I said, you can be generous and also be quite fast. Yes. I hope the shop will sell bigger jars again in the future. They ran out and I needed some, because then you can be a lot faster with this. Yeah, you see, I am using really a lot now. This is quite much, but let's see. This is a lot. This is really a lot. You can do with a bit less, but I thought this way I can be quicker. So I have done all my edges. I think it's all covered. Yeah, make sure it doesn't stick on the newspaper on the sides. Awesome. I'm already going to get this out. It's already starting to wrinkle, you see. So yeah, make it flat. There, turn around, hairdryer. So, and now, obviously there's still moisture in there, so I have to move a bit quickly. What I'm going to do now is put a piece of old newspaper here, and then use some of these kitchen towels, because there's still moisture in there. You can see it, it wants to wrinkle again. Kitchen towels below, some kitchen towels above. I reuse these every time, so I'm planning to use these as long and as much as possible. And then heavy books on top. So this way, the moisture that is still in there can get into these kitchen towels. It can go away and it won't wrinkle this way. I'm actually going to turn this around, and I regularly check it, especially in the beginning, for a few minutes, after a few minutes, just to see how it's doing. Let this be for at least a couple of hours or overnight. You can do this the day before you start. So I did this with this piece of paper, and I'm going to do the same with this piece of paper. So I'm going to use pieces with this design, with the fabric, etc. on top for the spines of the journal holder. Yep. Okay, the next thing we're gonna do is cover the cover pieces. So I cut 4 pieces out of the 1mm cardboard. One is for the notepad holder, so I already cut it. I'm gonna put this aside. The measurements should pop up on the screen right now. And for the viewers who buy the Mega Project Pack, you will get a sheet with the measurements on there as well. So I cut out 2 fronts and a back, and they will come like this. Here will be a spine, and then we can close it like this. And the first thing I want to do is give these 3 an outside cover, and I chose these 3 pieces. So this is going to go on the back, and these are going to go on the front. And as you see, they fit right in between. Is obviously you can wrap other papers around that. There are a lot of papers in this Mega Project Pack that you can use as well, but these already have the right sizes like this, so they fit in there perfectly. But first I'm going to cut these out. So I cut these out, so the straight lines I cut quickly with my paper trimmer, and then I used scissors to cut out these pieces in all the corners. Okay. And those who have seen more of my tutorials know exactly what I'm going to do right now. I have double-sided tape here. There's double-sided tape that's like really wide. You can quickly glue it all over the place. I always like to put some tape on the sides just to have a really good bond neatly on the edges, and then glue stick in the center. That goes pretty quickly as well. So I have some score tape here, and I'm simply going to put it against the edge as much as possible on the cardboard. Yeah, you see I have back and front, etc. written on the cardboard, like this notepad holder as well. It's just from far away, it's like which is which. And now my brain doesn't need to put any energy in thinking which is which. I just can see it. And no need to erase this because it'll be covered completely. So I always in life as well try to have my brain only think of the important stuff. So I have labels, a lot of labels in the house, so I don't have to think what's what. It just knows, doesn't have to think about that. So I can use my brain for important things. So I like to really go over the tape with a bone folder. Okay, then remove all the backings. And this will stick in the morning still, so I don't have to be quick or anything. Then I'm going to apply glue stick in the center. This is a strong glue, but with this one I have to be fast because it's strong, but for some reason it dries out so quickly. So try to cover the whole piece here. And then immediately put it in the center of this cover piece. I left a little bit of room in all the corners, about 1 millimeter. The corners will be covered as well. Now I see, yeah, I hardly have some here and I have a lot here, so I didn't do perfectly, but that's all right. Just gonna cut this a bit short, because if I have too much paper here, it will like clink together and it will be a bit of a mess. So I'm gonna be here now. I hope I have enough here. We'll see. But there's not a problem some ink cannot solve. Okay. Let's make sure this sticks. And then some elbow grease. This. Just fold it over against the cardboard. It makes it easier afterwards, trust me. Okay, on all 4 sides. And then I'm going to apply double-sided tape on these tabs as close as possible to the cardboard. If there's a bit of room left, no worries. You can cut it off, you can leave it like you want. I'm just gonna leave it. Okay, so here. Okay, and now I'm going to start to glue the long sides first. I'm gonna remove this because I already pre-folded. It's going to be like super easy, but make sure you don't leave any air gaps, so pull the paper. It's always handy to rub over these edges as well. It gives it a really nice clean finish. So long sides first. And then the short sides on top. So, and the back cover piece is ready. And now I'm going to do exactly the same with the 2 front pieces. There, and these are the results. So this is the back cover and the 2 front covers ready. And in the meantime, my 2 new materials have dried sufficiently. I had these dried overnight. Perhaps the time can be shorter, a few hours, I'm sure, but I like to keep things safe because I invested fabric, paper, ink, and most of all, time. So I wanted to do well, you know. So you see no wrinkles at all. Now this isn't ready yet. We need to put another layer of Mod Podge on top, but we're not going to do that now. We're going to do that when the time is ready to actually use these. I'm going to keep this to make the cover of the actual journal, so I'm going to put this aside. And this piece I'm going to use for the spines. And for that I need to cut 2 strips from this. I'm gonna measure on the back where I want to cut these strips, because I'm not going to put this quickly under my very, very nice paper trimmer, because with all the glue and the fabric, the blade will be dull in a minute. I don't want that to happen. So I'm going to measure 2 strips that are 9 inches long. Now actually, they need to be as long as your cover. And I like to use the cover as a measurement for the length rather than my ruler, because you never know, your paper trimmer measurements could be a little off, etc, etc. So if you use one of your cover pieces, you're sure it's going to be perfect. So I'm actually going to draw a line here, make some markings there. And the first piece I want to be 2.5 inches wide, and the second piece I want to be 2 5/8 inches wide. So that is like this. Check it out. See if I can still do math. Yes, I can. Okay. So yes, use something square if you're not sure if you're going to go straight. I'm rather sure, but I'll adapt it later if I'm a bit off. Okay, gonna do the same length here. So I'm gonna need to come out here. Let's see if this is all right. Yes. Okay, so you see I was I was 1/8 of an inch off here just because I was too lazy to use an actual, like, I don't know how it's called in English, the right measuring corner thingy. But luckily, if you're a little bit off, it's okay, because this piece will be covered in glue, so I don't need to erase it or anything. It is fine as it is. So, and now I'm going to cut this out, not with my best scissors, because yeah, I'm not going to ruin the blades with this fabric, but just normal good working scissors that for which it's okay that you ruin them a little bit. So carefully going to cut this out. Do this as straight as possible. That's the downside of having these lovely tools like paper trimmers. You stop using your ability to cut really fine. Okay. Save this for later, you'll need it. Just a side note, it's best to not put this exactly in the middle. We will need a piece later, and yeah, it's not a big piece, but it's best not to use up all the best parts. Okay, the only thing I'm gonna try to erase is the top and the bottom, because these pieces will be visible. Please don't write anything in the middle of this fabric, because it will be visible. This will be the inside of the spine. We're only going to put glue on the sides. Now it is time to, if you like, to clean up the edges. Now sometimes it can be quite beautiful if the edges start fraying, so make sure this is how you want it or not. Just straighten the edges, get rid of the fabric fibers that are sticking out. Just clean it all up. And now this is optional, you can ink the edges. And it's best to do that before we Mod Podge over this. The color I'm using is aged mahogany, like a dark burgundy color with a hint of brown in it, I think. I would rather have used purple for this, a purpley type color, but I just don't have it. But a bluish purpley color might perhaps suit a little bit better. Just I'm working with what I have. And in the end, if you only have brown or black, that'll work as well. It's just the outcome is going to be different, of course. Okay, it's easier to ink edges when the design is rather dark, like this one, than it is with a lighter one. I know. It's a lot more forgiving. So, but this is purely optional, the inking. Now I'm gonna check if there are fibers that came a bit loose with inking these edges. It depends on the type of fabric you use, obviously. Yeah, so a few fibers came a bit loose. Okay, and the next thing I'm gonna do is I'm going to put Mod Podge on top now. And that gives that, yeah, you'll see what it gives. I put a piece of the parchment paper below. Yeah, I keep reusing this over and over and over again until they're like not usable anymore. I put it under here because it will prevent from sticking to a newspaper. This is a smaller piece. These are smaller pieces and they are more prone to stick completely to the surface underneath. And then I don't have to clean my surface. We're just gonna go over it. And when we're ready with one, I'm gonna start with one. I'm gonna dry it immediately with my hairdryer. So I still have it with me because it's gonna start curling up again, inevitably. Course. What I also like to do is to Mod Podge the edges now, so the fibers of the fabric can't start fraying anymore. I'm trying not to leave any fingerprints here and make straight brush strokes. Try not to get, yeah, I'm not giving a good example. Try not to get any Mod Podge on the back. It's not a disaster. You don't have to start all over, but try not to. It's just prettier. Otherwise you will have like these shiny stains on the inside. You see, I am more delicate now with the amount I'm using. I'm not super delicate, but I'm more delicate with the amount that I'm using as I was with the amount that I used to attach the fabric, because that really needed to stick. This is just a varnish, a shine. So don't forget the edges. If you like the fraying, of course you don't have to do that. Okay, am I happy? Quite happy. Okay. It's still a little bit sticky if you really push on it, but I'm going to let the rest air dry for a bit while I do the same with the other strip. Okay, and for the last time, clean up the edges once more, just for the occasional fiber that came loose while Mod Podging the edges. But this is for the perfectionists among us. So let these dry a bit further and then you will have a really sturdy material that you can actually clean. And oh my god, it's pliable. You can do so much with this. I'm so happy I found out how to do this. The next thing I'm gonna do is take my pencil, take my ruler, and I'm going to make a line, just a guide, a little bit less than 1/2 an inch, and I'm going to just make it an 1/8 of an inch, 1/16 of an inch less, like this. There, I'm gonna connect these marks, draw a line, and that's actually to guide me where I should put my glue. And the reason I make it a little bit less than 1/2 an inch is so I can hide it just, and I don't have to erase anything or anything. There. There. I'm gonna start with the widest one, and I'm gonna use a bit of the wax paper underneath. Why? Because now I'm going to use this really sticky glue, the Fabri-Tac, and I'm gonna apply it here, but it will seep through. Don't worry, you will not see it because it's gonna dry glossy like the Mod Podge. You will not see it, but otherwise it will stick to the underground. So that's why I'm using this parchment paper underneath. Okay, I'm gonna start. So yeah, with this pattern, it doesn't really matter in what direction I'm gonna use it. I'm gonna use it like this. And I have my front cover ready. Yeah, this is going to be the upper front cover because these two are going to overlap like this. This is going to be the main front cover and it will open like this. See? I'm gonna put this aside for a bit and this will come here and this will come here. Yeah, make sure they're in the same direction. So I'm gonna put some, and I use the nozzle to actually spread it out a bit, but I'm gonna stay within that mark. You see? This, that'll be enough. And then I'm going to put this on and I'm going to cover the line. So I'm gonna go a bit over so you won't see it at all and press like this. Yeah, and to be sure, I'm going to put something heavy on top just for a little while for the first bond. And I'm going to do the same thing on the other side. Fabri-Tac. Like this. Make sure there's enough, but not too much. We don't want it seeping out, but we definitely want it to stick. So then I'm gonna put this on top, cover the line that I made, and put something heavy on top just for a little while, that's all. So after a while, like 5 minutes or so, lift the books off and then turn it around so it can dry properly. And then when it's dry enough, repeat on the other side. Yeah, I obviously have it upside down here. Let me turn it around. Repeat the same thing on the other side with the other front cover. So both fronts are attached, and now for the closure, I'm going to make a mark in the center of the height on the front cover. So the front cover, check, so this is 9, center is 4.5 here, and about an inch from the side. So here, I'm going to make, I'm going to make a hole right here, and I'm going to make another hole in the lower front cover, but not on the edge. I'm gonna put it on this side. So I'm gonna first find the center again, so 4.5 inch, and then I'm gonna go 1.5 inch from the edge, so that is here. Yeah, so disregard this. Here I'm gonna make a hole, and here I'm gonna make a hole. Now, when I have cut these holes, I'm gonna add the eyelets. It's just a very nice finish. If you don't have an eyelet setter and you can't punch through this cardboard with anything, I suggest you just use a craft knife and make a beautiful, like 1/2 inch high slit, like a little opening vertical where you can pull the ribbon through. Make the opening like 16 to an inch wide or something. That's a suggestion as well, but I'm going to use my crocodile, and since I'm gonna use these 3/16 of an inch eyelets, I put it on 3/16. I'm carefully going to see where I need to punch. There we go. And also, yeah, there. So I've got my holes, and now I'm gonna set my eyelets there. So I got my hole here, and the next thing we're going to do is take some seam binding or other ribbon if you like. And I'm going to take about 15" each. So I will certainly have enough. So one here and one there. So loosely, because this is obviously a bit. And then I'm going to take one piece, put it through the hole, turn this around. I'm gonna put a piece of double-sided tape here just to attach it. Remove the backing and just stick it down. I'm gonna open it up a bit so it sticks down better, like this. There, that's not going anywhere. I'm gonna do exactly the same on the other side. So go outside in. Add a piece of tape here. And just glue this down. That won't go anywhere. Great. So later on we can close the journal like this. Now let's move on with the journal holders. There are, I think, 2 designs of these. Yes. And I printed this on 160 grams paper. And the first thing I'm gonna do is cut this out. Those 2 things. I'm gonna leave these for a bit later. So these are cut out and I have these left for a bit later. And the first thing I'm gonna do is score these lines and fold them in half. It's very simple, just score. I'm gonna fold these in half. When I fold stuff, I like to use my bone folder. I'm gonna keep this within reach, so fold them in half. Nice, crisp, clean fold. And now I'm going to use a corner rounder on both the corners on the fold side. Not here, not on this side, but on the fold side. So this is optional, but I like it. This. You can also use scissors to round these corners, obviously, if you like. This is just faster. The next thing I'm gonna do is punch this hole. You see this black mark? There is where the closure is going to come. And I'm gonna punch it simply with my awl. Now, make sure you don't have it fold over and punch it like this, because we need not to have a hole in here. It's just prettier if we don't. So just open it and punch the hole. Easy peasy. Like this. And now these are meant to be the closure. Now they are huge. And that is so everyone can just make them as large as they want themselves. I have a 5/8 of an inch circle punch. So I can make these, and I make them as large or as small as I want. Now there are 4. So I punch these 4 circles, but I actually want to make them a bit stronger. So I'm gonna punch some white ones as well, just from other pieces of paper. Okay, so now let me grab this just for the glue. I'm just going to glue 3 on top and make sure that the colored side is on the outside. So I'm gonna start here. Just a little bit of glue stick will do. This. The white one in the middle. And then one of the other colored ones on top. There. And let this dry for a bit. The same with the other one. Obviously the edges are still white, so I'm going to ink these edges. So, and then I'm gonna punch a hole right in the center. And I have these tiny brads, these small purple brads, and I'm going to put them through the hole. And I showed you before this 1mm piece of scrap cardboard. I have a piece cut out of it, and it's just so easy because I was struggling with that before. Now I'm going to slide this through like this, easy. Then go through the hole, the flap, and just hold the whole thing together. And if I now, I'm gonna turn these so the legs bend sideways. If I now open these legs, I can just really push them down there. And when I've opened it, I can just slide it out, and it has a really nice gap to tie some thread or some cord there. Okay, and then I am going to add a bit of double-sided tape here, just to protect the rest of the piece of paper for those legs. Just a little bit of protection. Yeah, I'm gonna put some glue stick on whole this side, this whole half. And then close it. Like this. And now, very important, let this dry thoroughly, because the next thing we're going to do is score these lines. And if we're going to do that while the glue is still wet, well, the end result will be less good than if we would let this dry first. If this piece is completely dry, it will be a lot more sturdy when we are going to score these lines. In the meantime, I'm gonna make this one. When you're sure these are very, very dry, so yeah, doesn't take too long. It's not like it takes a day or something to dry, but I don't know, half an hour or so. You just feel like it doesn't feel a bit wet anymore, you know, when it feels really dry. And then score these 4 lines. So these are an 1/8 of an inch from this edge, and then every 1/8 inch, yeah. And that's 5, gonna do that on both. And I'm gonna fold only the first fold over. Only the first one. There. Make a crisp fold with your bone folder, if you have one. And then I'm gonna ink the edges, so I'm gonna go all around and also this fold. This is optional, obviously. Still using the aged mahogany, and obviously these designs are a lot lighter, the prints, so I'm gonna use it a little more sparingly, otherwise I would really make stains. Okay. Put this aside for a bit, and now I'm going to take my journal, this, and I'm going to draw a line 1/2 inch from this edge. Just make sure not to use any pencil 1/8 of an inch on the side. So I'm gonna leave the 1/8 of an inch on the top and the bottom bare so I don't have to erase it later, because this is quite a greasy pencil. So I'm gonna measure 1/2 an inch here, low enough. And I'm gonna measure 1/2 an inch here. Draw a line to connect these marks. There, but don't make it too high or too low. Now I know where to position these because I want them here. The good thing is, afterwards, you won't see this line anymore because we still need to insert the inner cover. But to really put these exactly into place, I am already going to cut this inside back cover. This is the one I'm going to use, and I'm going to cut it out right now. So I just cut this out, and to be clear, I am not going to glue this down yet. I'm just going to use this to measure where my flaps will come. I'm first going to add some double-sided tape on this tab, on both of them. And if you have smaller tape, put it as close to the fold as possible. That's more important. Okay. So position the inner cover piece where you think it should come. And then hold it. Take one of your journal holders, slide it under there, lift a bit up and take a look at the tab, and take a look at your line where it should be positioned, right here. Yeah, perfect. I didn't remove the backing yet. And hold it down perfectly. Hold it, hold it, hold it. Hold it, hold it, hold it, hold it. Remove. Yeah, and now I can make a mark where I like this to come. So I can position it right in here. There. Okay, now I can remove the back here and glue it into place right here. There. Again, for the other one, on the top, this will come on the top. Use your inner cover again. Place it, make sure this one can close perfectly. I'm going to turn this around. Then I'm going to slide this one under. And yeah, I see. So I was a bit too generous on the bottom. These are like real details, you know. But learn from my mistakes. I was a bit too generous on the bottom. So I know now that I have to glue this part a bit more to the top than I planned to, but it's still okay. Like this, it should be aware of that, that's all. So I'm gonna draw some lines here. They will all be hidden later on, but then I know exactly where it needs to come. Remove the backing. And put it right in place. Right here. So, here we go. And this piece will actually hold the journal in place. Last thing I need to do is add some string to one of these. And I'm gonna add it to the bottom. 15 inches should do. So I have this embroidery thread. Yes, this is a lot finer than my usual embroidery thread. It was not what I expected. Yes, this is a very fine one. Very good for sewing, but it is possible I might change this one out later on for a thicker cord. So, but I'll see. I'm gonna start with this one. And make a knot, double knot at least. one, cut off the ends, and then always the ends, tuck it in there. And then we can close our journal. You can make it shorter, you can make it longer, you choose. There. I'm gonna keep it like this for a while. Later on, this will be obviously shorter because it's going to be bulked up with a journal.